Good day, guys. Today we have lab number 2 of the lesson number 9, using a class file and method to work with arrays. So what we are going to do, we have to create a class named calculator and a function named add that takes a varying number of arguments and outputs an addition of them to the console window. We have to use foreach loop to iterate over the elements of an array. And we have to call the method thrice, the first one with 2 parameters, the second with 3 parameters, and the third with an integer array. So what we are going to have as the result, we are going to have these lines outputted in our console window. We have the result with 2 parameters, and for example this we have to add 2 this parameter 1 plus 2 equals 3. Then we have to output the result with 3 parameters, and we have 3 parameters here. 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. And the last one, the result with an array, and we have the array of the elements here, and if we will add all together, we will have the sum equals to 15. So we need to do it to add them within this function. And one more thing we have to do, we have to create the class and to put there our function. And we have created the class the previous lab, but we did it. Look here, I'll open the previous lab number 1 it was. We added the class inside our CS file, main CS file. But now we are going to add new class using a new file. So we will create a new file, CS file, with a new class. Sometimes we don't need to create the classes within our main CS class, within our namespace, because there can be many of any classes, and it is better to organize them in different files. So let's create our project. Let's copy our name for our project. File, new project. It is console application, and we have to name it. I have this name, and we have to rename our main program CS file as always. Yes. And now we are going to create a new class name. Let's copy the name of this class, and let's remember that we have to call the classes to give them identifiers with the capital letter, starting with the capital letter. So calculator with the capital letter. Okay, let's create. How we are going to do it? We select in Solution Explorer window, we select the name of our project, then right click, and we have here add class, and just rename it. We'll do it calculator and add. And now we see that we have calculator CS and our Lab2 CS. And we have here the code by default, and we have here also the code by default. And we see that we have already class called calculator. yes, and we have the body of this class, and we are going to have our method to create our method within this class. The namespace has the same names, yes, because we are inside of the same namespace. So let's create here our method. Let's look at our task and see how we have to call it. We have to call it add, and this method is going to add any number of parameters. So let's start with the public keyword, because we are going to use this to call this method from within different file. So we need to put here public. Then this method is going to return the value, the sum of some parameters. Yes, it is going to return the sum. So we need to put the type of the returning value. Returning value we have only integer. We have only integers everywhere. So we put here int. The sum will be integer also. Then we have to put identifier of our method. It is called add, and within this round brackets we need to put our parameters. So let's look here. We have it can have 2 parameter, 3 parameter, or even array as a parameter. So in this situation, in such situation, we have to put the keyword params, which means that it can be any number of parameters. And one more thing, any number, it is 2, 3, 4, 5, but not array. If we want to have an array as a parameter, we need to put it here, int, and to call our parameter, array parameter. So let's call it, for example, numbers. It will be the array of integer type. So we have like 2 params keyword, means that it can be any number of the parameters to add them, and int numbers means that besides this it can be the array as a parameter. And then we have curly braces for our add method, and we are going to add any number of parameters here. We don't know how many of them will be, but we know that we have returned some sum of these parameters. So we need to declare the variable called sum to add each of these parameters, to add them together. So we need to declare int sum. It will be a sum of these parameters, and the first to start with, it will start with 0. Yes, 0 plus some parameter plus another parameter and so on. And then we have in our task that we are going to use for each loop to iterate over the elements of an array. So it will be array of our parameters, array of our numbers. So we need to use for each loop, for each. We don't know how many of them, so it is better to use for each loop. And let's take var or int, it doesn't matter because we have integer, but var means that it can be the parameter can be of any type. but we can use var or int, it doesn't matter in this task. So let's take var. Then let's take x as the variable to iterate over our elements. It will be assigned with each element of our numbers. So we have to put here in numbers. Numbers is our array. And then we are going to sum these elements of our array, to sum x. So we can put it like here, sum plus equals to number to x, to x. X is the element one by one of this array. Okay, we have after we work with this for each loop, after it will be executed, we are going to return this sum. So we need to put here return operator, and what we are going to return? We are going to return sum. So after we call this function, we need some parameters here. It can be one parameter, two parameters, three parameters, or even array. And then it will calculate the sum of these parameters and return this sum to the main program. So now what we are going to do, we are going to return to our main program CS and our main function, and we are going to put here all of these messages one by one. So the first one, we have to call our function with two parameters. Let's take these two numbers, 1 and 2. So first will be this message and then result. So what we have forgotten, of course, when we have our class calculator in different file, we have a different type file of our class. We need to create here the object, new object of this class. So we need to put here var to name our new object. Let's name it. It is usually the same name. It usually has the same name as our class, but with small letter, not capital but small. Calculator equals to new, and now we have to put calculator class. So it is our class, and we have created an object, new object of our class, and we call it the same name but with small letter. And don't forget here to use just empty round brackets. Okay, so this is an object, and we have this keyword which means that we have to allocate the memory for this object. And now we can call our function using dot notation with this object. So it is important to do it. It is necessary to do it, because we can't call our method add from within this main function. We have to use this line. So now we can output our message. Let's do it like this. We have a $sign here. The first is just the message, and then after this here we have to call our method add. So we need to put the object of our class, the instance of our class. Then we have to put dot. We use dot notation. And we see that we have here add. It's our function. It's our method. So we need to put here add. And as a parameters we have two numbers, 1 and 2. We can use any numbers, but it is better to use the same as an example. So the first message we have done. Let's check if it is correct. Control F5, and we have here the result with two parameters 1 and 2 equals 3. So 3, it was calculated when we call this method with two parameters. So the same we have to do with this line. Just copy message without result. We have the same console write line, $sign, and then space, and in curly braces we have to call this method with three parameters. Now we have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And the last one will be with look here, it is an array. So we need to pass here not numbers but array. We have passed here two numbers, here we have passed three numbers, and now we are going to pass the array. So we can do it like this. Look here, we hasn't do it like this any time. So let's copy the message, and then look here, I'll just copy it. But we don't need here to put numbers. We need to put here the array. So we can do it like this. We can create an array, new integer array we have, and then just without any name of this array. We don't need to put here the name of our array. We just need to put here the elements of our array. So it will be like here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The values of elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's all. Yes. So it is an array of integer type, and we have the values of elements of this array. So Control F5, and we have it 15, 6 and 3. It is correct. We have it in our example. So if it is difficult for you to understand that it is an array, we can create it in different line. So we can do it like int array, for example air, let's call it air, equals to new int array, and then these elements. And in this case we are going to pass this array. So we don't need, we just copy and paste another. Okay, so I will comment it. It is correct, but we have another way to do it. So without this new int, we can put here just array. It is the same. It is the same, but I think it is more clear for you, because we have an array. We have elements of this array, the values for these elements, the values for this array. So we pass this array to our add method to sum the elements of this array. It is the same. We can see it. The result is the same. So now it is all. We have finished our lab number 2. I wish you to do it also quickly, and goodbye.